Hey gang, hello. Thank you for joining me again today. And boy, that glare is terrible. Hang on, I'll see if I can do something about that in a minute. But in the meantime, this is Daily Art Adventure number 978. Getting serious about a likeness on a wedding painting. Ready, set, go. So let me see. Today is Wednesday morning. I'm on a painting, my annual painting safari, painting trip to Ocracoke, North Carolina, with a number of other friends and artists. But I did a wedding on Sunday on my way here, and I have to get this finished as well. So I'll back out at least somewhat there. You can see most of the painting. Everything else will remain fairly abstract. I'll finish, tighten it up just a little bit, but it's time to do the hard work, which is trying to capture likeness. All right, so I've been working from my phone. Let me show you. First of all, there's the bride and groom, and what I typically do at a wedding reception these days is I try to get the bride and groom just sketched in enough so that people feel like they're seeing, you know, the painting. Even though I know that in subsequent days I'm going to rework it quite considerably. So this is the moment to do that reworking. Now, let me show you one of the tools that I use, one of the cheater tools, if you will. Okay, if you can see that little icon right there, it says Photo Collage. You see that? I'm working on an Android. I'm assuming that same app is available on Photoshop. There are a number of photo collage apps available, but some of them are don't work at all, because they change the ratio of the photograph. They can make it skinny or tall or wide and short, you know, and you don't want that. I want it. So in this particular app, it retains, I can make the photo large and small, but it retains a ratio. So let me see, what can I show you? I've already erased some of it. So I have already in my phone of the photograph of the bride and groom, right? Then I take a picture of the painting. Let me see. Okay, so I'll blow this up. So there's you with me so far? I take a picture of the painting. Then in my photo edit, I put it next to the photograph. So those two I have side by side, and I will tell you that every time I do this, I instantly already see many inaccuracies, many corrections that need to be made. Right? But I go one step further. I take that same image and I'm trying to get it so you can really see. I take that same image and I flop it horizontally. So this is a mirror image of this, which helps me see my mistakes even more accurately. And then I combine those two. So here's the grid that I typically end up with. I hope this is making sense to you. So here's a photograph of the painting. Here's the original photograph. And I take both of those and flop them. Here's a mirror image of each of those. And so I rely mostly, for starters, on the mirror image, because I can see my mistakes, quote unquote, so easily there in the mirror image, and then I translate that to the positive image. But you know what? Today, I'm actually not going to do that right now. I'm going to go just right back to this right here and start making some adjustments. Now, another little trick that I've learned is to start making my corrections here. So I'm going to redraw, and I've learned that instead of drawing with a paintbrush, which I do a lot of, I'm going to draw with a pencil, because the pencil stands out as an edit, whereas if I use a paintbrush on here, it's hard to distinguish my edits from what's already on the canvas. Does that make sense? All right, so let's just get started here. First of all, where should I start? There's so many things. First of all, I'm going to change the angle of her face ever so slightly. I'm going to shorten her chin ever so slightly. Am I zoomed in as far as possible? Yeah, I am. Okay, at the moment. Change the position of her neck a little bit. And of course, as always, I've elongated these figures a little bit. I'm okay with a little bit. I don't want to elongate them a great deal. I don't want to exaggerate them so much that the client says, oh, you made us skinnier, you made us taller. I am going to make them taller and skinnier. I do that to everybody. I just don't want to do it to such a degree that the client sort of realizes that. Does that make sense? I just want them to think, ooh, I look good in that painting. I look good in that photo, so to speak. Tuck in the chin there. All right, now what I really need to work on is her arm. I've got this part of her arm entirely I've got it too steep. Need to flatten it up. A lot of what I do when I'm doing a quick sketch, I think everybody does this, is I'm painting out of my knowledge, like the anatomy of my drawing is appropriate enough, but it's not accurate to the photograph. So, and I don't mind tweaking, like for instance, the angle of her upper arm. I've got it too vertical. Actually, it should be more like this. A little bit, not that much, but a little bit. I don't mind cheating a little bit, you know, as long as, number one, she's anatomically correct, and number two, as long as I capture a likeness. But the problem here is, hang on. Hang on, I need to go look for a tool. There we go. I want a white pencil. I didn't realize I was going to want a white pencil, but I am. All right. My drawing is off. The gap between her chin and her shoulder is much too wide in my painting. The easiest thing would be to bring her head down. But the problem is, in the overall setting, I don't want them to be shorter. So, darn it. I don't have much choice. I have to raise their shoulders up, which in effect means, that's why I'm using a white pencil here. Now some of you might wonder, well, what's that pencil going to do when you apply oil paint to it? And the answer is it's going to do great, because the oil will actually eat this pencil somewhat, and it'll subsume it. It'll become part of the paint, if you will. And his Tuan is his name. He's Vietnamese. His shoulder is likewise a little bit too high, so that's good. No, too low, I mean. Anyway, so I'm going to raise up everything here. Let's stick with her for a minute. And I'm afraid that this kind of detail work will just get a little bit monotonous. I'm licking this pencil, by the way. This pencil, by the way, is the counterpart to the black pencils that I normally use. Same basic pencil, just different color. Did you hear that sigh? Yeah, that's a sigh. So I don't obligate myself here to do this entire process on camera. You've already seen the main tricks, if you will, the tricks that I'm using to make corrections. That's the most instructive part. His head is clearly too tall, etc. Does that make sense? Just making adjustments, aligning things, just all the stuff. I always, when I do this, I go, man, I wish I'd paid a little bit more attention. The night of the wedding, right? The night of the reception, when I was doing all this, I should have been more careful. Blah blah blah. Yeah. I was busy. Okay. As I said, I try to get just enough of a likeness to satisfy the moment, so that the guests are impressed and feel like they're seeing, a painting. And alas, I don't spend a ton of time doing details. One thing, let me go back to the original photograph. So I want to zoom out a little bit. There we go. In real life, his head is pushed forward more than I have. The relationship we said in her face is appropriate. That means his shoulder needs to come up more here. There we go. Oh, that's better. That will be better. Okay. So his head is more in a more forward position. I think I've got her hair a little bit too far that way, I think. That's about all now it's getting messy, so I'm going to pause here and start doing some painting. I have a number of these really nice silver Grand Prix brushes, small. This is a 0. And very, very helpful for doing small portraits. Okay, where to start? Let's start with some dark details. Mixing up some oxide red, some green blue, and some raw umber with liquid, so it's nice and transparent. Let's fix the top of his ear. I'm lowering his ear down. I'm lowering the hair over his forehead a little bit. And it's going to be erasing now this. We get a little bit of noise there. Hang on. Maybe that's better. We also course, I'm starting, of course, with dark colors and also with fairly bold strokes. Start big, work small, of course, just like all of you do. Start with a big shape, start with big marks. And I'm not worrying very much at all about exact color. That will come later. Her hand needs to come up quite a bit. You know, your brain is so funny. You can only process so much information at any one given moment. You know what? That's true of everybody. You can only use so much. I think as an artist, the better you get, you just get better at flitting around from one information set to another. So, for instance, once I compare the height of her finger, let me zoom in. Let's take her index finger. It's at the level of her chin. Look at, I'm so many miles off, it's ridiculous. That's embarrassing. Right? Do you ever get embarrassed? I do all the time with myself. Even if you weren't watching, I'd be embarrassed. Like, man, what was I thinking? What an idiot. Be real careful about that, calling yourself an idiot stuff. Say, well, I must have been thinking about something else, which indeed I was. And I indeed I think I'm going to lower her entire face just a little bit. Let's get back to the dark color brush. Just do one more thing on this before I leave you. Again, what I'm doing right now is just a blunt correction. I'll come back later and make my correction more precise. Let's lower down the top of his head as well. Thereby, in a sense, redrawing the top of his head. So I have a, whoops, that's way too green. Let's add some yellow to that. All right, I'm going to bid you a fond adieu because I'm going to be fiddling around with this thing for a little while yet, and I think it's just too finicky for fun watching. Let me see if anybody said anything yet. Hello, TRC450. Yes, I'll answer that question. Yeah. Yes, her jawliner's in her head, exactly. There's all kinds of issues, David. All right, yes, good question. Here's the icon. Let me see if I can get it so you're not seeing all glare. Oh, it's just all glare. There you go. All right, you see that? It's called Pro HDR Camera. I think that's what you're asking about. If I open it, this screen, the functioning screen looks like that. And you take a picture, watch. 1 picture, 2 picture, 3 picture. It takes 3 photographs. Overexposed, underexposed, and middle exposed. And then the computer, so to speak, mashes those three pictures together. And of course you can still edit it here, but I'm going to not save that one, of course. Anyway, yeah, that's a very pro HDR camera. I used it yesterday when I was out plein air painting, and it's extremely helpful for landscape painting, extremely. Oh, and by the way, both iPhone and Android have in their camera, in their onboard camera, they have a fake HDR function. As I say, don't you believe it, that it's not real HDR. It's only real HDR, no, at least last time I checked, maybe they fixed it now. It's only real HDR if it literally takes three pictures and puts them together. And if you just click you can just say, oh, I've got that on my camera already. No, you don't. It's not real. It doesn't do, anyway, they try to emulate it. They try to fake the effect, but no. If you're an artist or a photographer on your phone, you want the real HDR. So as you now are on, can come up more. Anyway, as you see, I'll just be doing this kind of stuff for a good while here. We'll just be making adjustments little by little. I can only see, my brain can only see focus on one thing at a time, just like your brain. So I go back and forth, around and around and around, making finer and finer and fine-tuned. So I would think probably in the next 45 minutes is what I would guess that I'll be doing this round, at which time I'll give it a rest, maybe even less than that, and paint elsewhere on the painting, ignore this for a while. Then when I come back to it, I'll see it with a little bit fresh eyes, and I'll see a whole bunch more mistakes. And at least for me, I am not a genius, man. I'm half-wit at portraiture. I'll stand by my portraits. You want to go to DanNelsonArt.com and click on portraits, and I've got lots of them there. I'll stand by them. I get the job done, but it's work, and I just focus one thing at a time. Just boom, step by step by step by step by step. I get closer and closer to the reality. All right. Thanks for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you later. Bye-bye.